Yo, what's up everyone, Mr. Premps here, and oh my, today's discussion is probably one of the most popular in the community right now, and it's who's the next Straw Hat. Now before I get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, make sure you like the video so I can continue bringing you guys and girls One Piece content on at least a weekly basis. So as I mentioned, we're going to be taking a look at who the next Straw Hat is, and quite frankly, this is most likely going to be the final Straw Hat. The reason I say this is due to the new volume of the One Piece magazine that leaked, and what we're set to get in this magazine is in excess of 100 and I think closer to 200 pieces of One Piece information, and honestly I can't wait to get my hands on this and find out all the little nuggets of information that we should know as fans. But also I think it's great because for me these nuggets really bring the story to life. Now this isn't meant to be a video on that leak, but I think it's great for context. I previously released a video named my top 5 Straw Hat candidates, and if you haven't seen it, make sure you go back and check it out. But in that video I mentioned how in the beginning Luffy set out for Sail, and he mentioned that he wanted around 10 members in his crew. Now I know a lot of us in the community have debated this and actually didn't know whether this number included Luffy or not, and I shan't go through all the crew members again as I did in my previous video. But currently the number of members in a crew are 9, and that's 10 if you include Luffy. So taking that into consideration, that would mean that the Straw Hats are set, right? Well, wrong. It's actually been confirmed that Luffy himself is not included when he mentions wanting 10 crew members, suggesting that there's at least one more crew member to join. The reason I use at least is because this is Oda, and ultimately it is his story, so things could always change, but I don't think this will be one of them. However, that's enough of that. Let's get into the real reason why we're all here, and that's who that next Straw Hat member will be. So I think for me, if I'm to analyse the members in the crew, there are certain quirks or things that are actually required by a character before you can actually be considered to be a member of the Straw Hats. 1 is a role in the crew, 2 is a sad backstory, 3 is a dream, and the last is some sort of gag that Oda can use from time to time for comedic purposes. And just to give you all some sort of example with the current Straw Hats, I'll use Nami and Sanji as examples. So let's take a look at Nami. Her role is very clear and evident as the navigator of the crew, and she does a brilliant job at it. Her backstory is extremely sad. She was an orphan who ultimately ended up in Bellemere's care, only to see her made an example of and killed by Arlong. She grew up loving to draw maps, and her dream is to draw a complete map of the world, which links hand in hand with her navigation skills, navigating the crew across the seas and drawing her map as we go along the journey. And in regards to her gag, Nami has a love for money. There's loads of examples where she's been shown to love treasure and to extort anyone given the chance. For example, looking to charge Kinemon for their help in taking Kaido out when he asks them in Zou. So as you can see, Nami fits the Straw Hat criteria perfectly. These characteristics are reciprocated in Sanji as well. His role in the crew is the crew's cook or chef, and arguably he could be the best chef in the story. We got his sad backstory in Whole Cake Island, which involved being brought up by Vinsmoke Judge and being the outsider of his siblings, bar Reiju, and the icing on the cake was the person who truly loved him the most, which was his mother, ended up dying. His dream also links back to his role in the crew, and that is to find the All Blue, which is where you can find fishes from all 4 seas. And lastly, in regards to his gag, I don't think this needs to be explained in any detail or to anyone who follows One Piece, but Sanji is a pervert. And honestly, it's a bit upsetting because it started off with him being quite chivalrous, and this just completely went left. However, I shan't rant because this isn't a Sanji video, but as you can see, he too fits the criteria. So for anyone else to join the Straw Hats, clearly you have to fit the mold. So let's take a look at the first candidate, and that's Carrot. What would her role be in the crew? Well, I believe that most of us have come to the conclusion that she's suited to be the crew's lookout. Now in regards to the sad backstory, Well, this works very well post Whole Cake Island with Pedro's death. So we know Pedro wanted to travel the world with the Pirate King Goldie Roger, and he was told that sooner or later everyone gets their moment to shine, and it appears Pedro's time was in Whole Cake Island. Carrot told us that she wanted to go on an adventure with Luffy and the crew, even if it was just the once, and she'd be carrying on his will by joining the man that he said would be the one to lead the world to a new dawn. Gag-wise, I think this is probably the most difficult for Carrot, but this could be her irrelevantly saying got you in any awkward situation. Or alternatively, when she first joined the crew and they were heading towards Whole Cake Island, Luffy ended up eating one of her carrots and she went into some sort of frenzy to attack him. Well, actually she ended up biting his neck, and Nami was like, quick Luffy, pat her head. So that could be an alternative gag. Ultimately, what I find is that she'll be a great candidate for the Straw Hats. She's not strong enough to challenge the strength dynamic in the crew, but I feel like we've had some time to grow to like her, and my only question would be whether we actually need her. Like, honestly, does she make a significant difference? Probably not, but who knows? The other character up for discussion is Yamato, who was actually revealed to us to be Kaido's son. And honestly, when thinking about it, I really couldn't think as to what role would be suited for her in the crew. But from what we know so far, I'd be confident in saying that she truly believes she's carrying Oden's will. So why not have her role be the same that Oden's was? And that's literally to make notes of the journey. So I guess we could call her the ship's log keeper, possibly making notes of Robin's findings. Or actually, now that I think about it, we know that Roger was said to be too soon in his journey, so potentially Yamato could update the log whilst referring back to Oden's notes, and ultimately she'd be producing an updated version of the log. Now, in terms of her backstory, we know that she's been kept in cuffs which were set to explode had she tried to run away, so clearly she hasn't had a happy upbringing with Kaido. Now, we don't know the full extent of this yet, but what we do know is that it certainly wasn't happy, and I for one believe it will be sad enough to fit in with the Straw Hat's sad backstory. Now, Yamato's dream since reading Oden's journal is basically to be Oden. Her goal would be to open up Wano's borders, but I believe she would want to go out to sea as well and explore just as Oden did. And in regards to her gag, this is just as silly as the rest of the Straw Hats, as she legitimately believes that she is Oden. And recently she just called Momonosuke her son, so there's no problem in that aspect. I honestly do think the debate on who the next Straw Hat is going to be is extremely entertaining, as it's literally us as a community making scenarios up as to who we think the right candidate could be. And honestly, Oda could throw a massive curveball at us, and the next member could be someone we haven't even met yet. I mean, if we do get an Elbaf arc, what are the chances that we get a giant on the crew? I think it's possible. I've watched so many YouTube videos and gotten so many opinions from other One Piece fans, and everyone has their own opinions as to who the next member will be. There's a strong showing for Momonosuke, and even with where we're at now in Wano, some people are still holding out for Katakuri. And just to make things clear, I can almost 100% state I do not believe that is going to happen in the slightest. And there's more likely a scenario that Katakuri would be joining the Grand Fleet, but that's likely to be at the end of the story rather than anytime soon. But as I mentioned, one of the greatest things about One Piece is the community and how far we dissect the story. We come up with our own logical reasonings on scenarios and hopes that everyone else agrees. And for the purposes of this video, if you're asking me who I think is going to join the crew, I will probably say Carrot. She's been featured heavily since joining the crew, and I feel like her dynamic works with the crew members as well, but who knows? Well, Oda does, but I guess that's about it for this video. For all those new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification too. And if you like anything that I've had to say, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Safe.